Hi, welcome. My name is Michelle,
And I'm Kelly Bowl.
and this is Women of Worth. And we are so excited to be here and be on Northbridge Cable TV doing our show. It's been a vision for some weeks now for Kelly and I to showcase women in our community in a positive light. Business women, authors, police officers, you name it, we're going to try to have them on our show because our community is just so full of these inspiring women who have started their own businesses, who have written books, who have just made a difference in our community. And when you're walking down the streets of Northbridge, it was kind of my inspiration, has been for quite a few years now, is the beautiful community that has been built in our downtown with all the businesses, and quite honestly, most of them run
Primarily, they're women.
They're
It's all women. And they are inspiring to us. And so if you are not familiar with Michelle and I, you will be after watching our show. We are actually work together professionally. And this is sort of how we came to this position in our lives right now. So I am the director of the Northbridge Senior Center, and Michelle is assistant director. And during the pandemic that we are still unfortunately living through, but in the early stages of shutdown, with the senior center being closed, we had to look for different avenues for outreach. And I was fortunate enough to build a relationship with the studio here in Northbridge, Northbridge Cable TV, and Harry Berkowitz was kind enough to offer me a spotlight, essentially, during the summer. And on one of the shows, I did have Michelle come on, and I think from that point, again, inspired her and triggered something that she has always wanted to do. And here we are in this beautiful place, and you'll see our beautiful background, and here we are to showcase women, women from our community, and women that maybe we haven't been inspired by personally, professionally, and here we are.
And here we are. And the one thing that got me, really moved me into doing this show was that day that I did your show with Harry Berkowitz, and I was walking down the hallway and I saw the pictures on the wall of all the hosts of the shows. There's wonderful hosts of all the shows that are on Northbridge Cable, and there were no women in those pictures. And so I thought, wow, we need some women representation. And I do know, I believe there was another show maybe last year or the year before, I'm not really sure, a couple years ago, that was on. I don't believe it's on anymore, but the lineup is really that we are women, about women, for women on this show. It's all about positive, lifting women up in our community, so that maybe even the young girls that are watching the show, or if moms are having their daughters watch the show, that the daughters can see the possibilities that can happen in their life. And we will be bringing some very inspirational people onto our show. So we hope that you watch us, and it'll be a lot of fun. And so going over to our first two guests, I'm so honored to have Marcia and Marie as our first guests. I can't even tell you, the excitement is just abundant, because Marcia had us actually dancing before the show to kind of get our nervousness out, so it was pretty exciting. So I'm going to introduce Marcia first. Marcia Mariner, to my right, is she's a sacred feminine empowerment coach. Her clients are awakening women, ready to unleash their power to build their dream lives fully aligned with their heart's desires and core values. In addition to her services as a women's empowerment coach, Marcia is a licensed mental health counselor and a certified heart-centered hypnotherapist. Her services are designed to empower women to experience their innate worthiness and break free of self-sabotage. So welcome, Marcia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Michelle.
being here. And this has
Thank
just
you.
been so, I'm just so excited that you're here for our first show with Marie. It's just
Thank
going to be
you.
fantastic.
I'm so excited that you're starting this. This
Yeah.
is revolutionary.
Yeah.
And it was your heart's desire, it was your vision, and
Mhm.
here we are,
And here we
breaking
are.
new ground for
Yes.
you, for both of you, and for the women
Mhm.
in our community who are waking up and want to dream bigger.
Mhm.
And we're sending out a message to take those dreams seriously, because that's what keeps us alive and young at heart. I was thinking about your work at the senior center. It's like, what keeps us young at heart, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I'm honored to be here, to have been invited.
Great.
And I'm so excited that you're here with us,
I know,
Marie.
Marie. This is Marie Allen-Hadge. Marie's been going along on the journey with Marcia and myself, and just a little bit of a background. I've been with Marcia for years, taking classes, just really trying to figure out, just figure things out. And she is
Figure yourself out.
fantastic for this, let me tell you. And so during the pandemic, she has been offering these women's groups. So we do 8 week courses with her it's every Wednesday, and that's my that's my women group time, and it's just really helped get through this tough time. It really, really, truly has. And the bonds that we have with all the women in the group, which is how I've met Marie, it's just been fantastic. So really just so appreciate what you've done, Marcia. So
Great.
thank you so much.
Great, and I'm so glad that you're
Yes.
here too,
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
Because Marie is a resident of Northbridge, right?
Yes,
Yes,
Marie's
I
from
am,
Northbridge.
right, yes. Yep, my name's Marie Allen-Hadge, and yeah, I'm from Northbridge, and Marcia and I have known each other for, probably 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, Michelle, as you mentioned, we're in this wonderful group of women's circles, and it's where we get our power, from each other, because we lift each other up.
Right.
And just as you explained in your introduction, lifting each other up as women and as young girls, hopefully being able to lift them up as well. And I'm excited to be here and share my story. And this is an exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
So hopefully you who are listening will hear something that is encouraging and inspiring.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And
And to remember that you're
Yeah.
worth it. I
That's
love the name of this program.
Yes, exactly.
Women of Worth.
That's
Yes.
right.
yeah,
Yes.
my mom came up with that one.
I
so.
love that. That's awesome.
So, Marcia, do you want to?
So, yes, we want to start off by talking about burnout.
I know we're gonna go real low.
Yeah, I guess we're just
Before we
going
go high.
to, women that are over-functioning, overdoing, where we can be a positive
But-
opportunity with, I think you should maybe step in on this one, because this is something that you probably get from
Well,
from the groups that you've
Well,
participated.
Marcia always highlights the fact that just because you are, you've gone to the bottom, you're in such burnout, and it could be not just burnout, it could be trauma, it could be sickness, it could be something in your life that you've just really hit rock bottom. Using that as a positive opportunity to really lift yourself up, do some soul searching, get creative, and turn it into something more positive in your life. So that's what we talk about in our women's circles, and it's just really inspiring. So one of the terms that you use is collective wounding.
Right.
And that's so that's what we kind of wanted you to start off with. How's that?
Sure, that's fine. Let's start though with looking at shifting our vision, because when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So I wake women up to see things from a much higher perspective. And that breakdown in our lives can be an opportunity for breakthrough. When we're going through that, it's hard to hold on to that, because so often there's a shattering, there's a breakdown, and our hearts break. And we often feel like we're in a million pieces, but really what's falling apart are the old stories and the old conditioning and the old scripts that aren't working for us anymore. And deep down inside, we know there's got to be a better way. We often say, I didn't sign up for this, right?
Right.
There's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Why is it that we say that? It's because somewhere inside we know the truth. And that is what I call the heart intelligence and that soul wisdom that just knows that this isn't it. And why I speak about the collective wounding of the feminine, it's from my own studies. One of my first graduate courses was Psychology of Women, and I fell in love with that course. It was a 5-day retreat that we all did together, and I started to see the scripting we've all been under, the spells we've all been under, and I've been under them, So first I continued to release myself from the toxic script and find my true self and align with my heart and create a life that I desired. So I feel very grateful that I learned pretty young, at age 25 was my breakdown. And I just happened to take a workshop and discover my crazy dream. And so I stepped into alignment with that, and my life just started unfolding. I started my own business, and we created a center for human development with my husband. And so our whole vision has been about waking people up in general to their true self and aligning with that and following that energy, because that's what keeps us inspired and healthy and alive. And if we don't do that, we start dying on the vine. So that gets back to women in particular, which is that women have been scripted to put everything before their own well-being. And we've been scripted to think, what do they want? What do they like? What do they need?
Right.
And what do they think of me? Rather than, what do I want? What do I need? What's my heart's desire? And being scripted to also think that's being quite selfish, actually, rather than the most important thing we could ever do, is to make that shift from outer focus to working our way back to our true self, which is, we talked about going within and creating a life from the inside out based on what our heart is asking of us. So often it starts off as I heard a woman the other day, she called me, and I said, sounds like you feel like you're dying inside. You look great on the outside. Everything looks great, because we're a culture that focuses on appearance, affluence, and achievement, which eventually we follow that script, and it leads to burnout, and we get disillusioned. And that's when women start to feel angry and unhappy. We thought we were following the rules. But we're following the rules of a culture that pretty much values the masculine more than the feminine, which is based on outer. This isn't a judgment of the masculine. We need that. But because we're women, we're born into a culture that is opposite of what's natural for us. So what happens is we grow up and we start to think there's something wrong with us. We lack something. We must not be enough. We can't do enough, be enough. We don't have enough. We're missing something. And instead of saying, what's wrong with this culture we're in, we say, what's wrong with us?
Right.
And then what happens is we start spiraling into a trance of unworthiness. And this can happen very young, right? Especially when we start seeing around, we start comparing. And then we try to be what we think we should be, and the self gets lost. I believe there was a book, Reviving Orphelia, Saving the Selves of Adolescent Girls. So you see the disappearing of that self, sadly. And this is what I'm on fire to wake women up, to see how we've been scripted to sacrifice way too much of our true self in order to be what everyone else wants and what we think is right. And so that leads me, so eventually what that does is it leads to burnout. And so often, my work is with leaders, really heart-centered leaders who love to be of service in the world. But I'm on fire to help them learn to be of service from what I call overflow, not depletion, which is we get to put ourself first, our well-being first. And when you think of, when you get on an airplane, what do they say? Put your oxygen mask on
First.
before you start going like this.
Right.
And I will share from my own experience that I did that too. My mother did that. We were all scripted.
Right.
But is it working? No. So we are at the end of an old era, and we're at the beginning of the shift. And so many women are waking up and working their way back home. And when we do it in circles, we get there faster with each other. Because part of the wounding is we feel alone and different. And when we start to connect with one another, we start to reduce the isolation. So I'd love to hear that's how you. Let's hear your amazing story.
Thank you. Well, yeah, so I did reach that burnout stage, I suppose you could call it. was back in like 2016 or so. I worked 30 years or so in very high-powered, fast-paced biotech industry, which is extremely, it's just extremely fast-paced. And regardless of what company you work for, they're all the same, you know? They own you, in a sense, or that's how I felt, anyway, or that's how I let myself be felt. And, you know, the days were long, the weeks were long, and it was almost a 24/7 type of job because parent company was in France,
Oh,
so
goodness.
they were on the
time.
opposite side, you know, so
Exactly.
time,
Wow,
the time
yeah.
difference really kind of dictated that. And the situation really was, I got a new boss, and I had been seeing Marcia at the time and had been introduced to the women's circles as well, and my boss was extremely toxic. He created an environment. I had been at this company for 17 years, and I was the senior director of quality, making sure that our drug products were safe and effective and under compliance. It's a pretty demanding responsibility. And I had built a wonderful team, and everybody loved me.
Yes, everybody loved it. Everybody loves Marie.
Yes, everybody loved me, and they still do.
Yes.
And you know, it was really heartbreaking to hear him steal my ideas and to be intimidated by what I found out. You know, is that he really was intimidated by my strength, because I was getting things done in a collaborative way. I
Yes.
wasn't dictating. I wasn't, you know, in this leadership role to say, hey, I'm the boss, listen to me.
Right.
Right.
And when he came in, he kind of had that mentality. You know, you report to me, you know, you know, and
He had the
it
final
just,
say.
absolutely, and it just didn't,
That was the old paradigm.
that was definitely the old
Yep.
paradigm,
And
but.
you were bringing in the new paradigm of leadership, which is collaborative and collective.
Yes, and it just became so obvious to me when women who worked for me, and even, you know, a guy who worked for me left or came into my office crying because of just the abuse. You know, it just had to be, you know, verbal or insinuated, you know, because the culture, it was so thick, you know. And the company was a great company. However, you know, he created the environment that was really unhealthy for me. And I, unfortunately, was new on this Woman of Worth journey, and I really felt like a victim. You know, I was really playing victim role because I was scripted with this condition of, Marie, just keep your head to the grindstone, work,
He's
you
the
know,
boss.
work hard, work hard, play hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. And I had a great work ethic, and my parents instilled that in me, which I am grateful for, but that's what they knew, right? And being a woman and a mother at that time too, you know, it was really heartbreaking for me because I felt like I was missing out on being a mother and watching my daughter grow up, and earlier in my life watching my son grow up, and because I was working constantly and I was so depleted that, you know, I would just eat, sleep, work, and basically that was it. And it was through these circles that I really heard other people's stories, and I was able to feel more confident in my own vulnerabilities and make
And your
that
worth,
change.
right?
And in my worth,
Yes,
yes. So
yeah.
I knew that I shouldn't be there, so why was I choosing to stay?
Right.
You know, why I was scared, you know, it was that fear, but I knew I was worth more.
Right.
We
So,
stop for one
yeah,
second, because I
absolutely.
think it's really important what you just said. She knew she was worth more. This is what I really wake women up to. We know what we know. It's not a head thing, it's a felt sense. You knew that.
Yeah.
And that was the strength that allowed you to take that action step.
Absolutely, all the signs were there.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
you know, depressed. I was tired all the time. I was exhausted. You know,
Can we just also say
Yes.
something about that corporate environment, which is predominantly masculine in the way it's created? And so what women need to do in order to succeed is they have to identify more with their masculine self and become like that energy. And what happens is they deny their rhythms, their needs as women, their cycles, and in their heart, their natural gifts aren't really that valuable.
Yeah.
In fact, they were quite a threat. So you can see how the environment is not supportive, those types of environments. So often what women have to do, like Marie, and she'll tell you that, is make a decision to leave that. As she starts valuing herself more, maybe there's a new way to thrive that can support your total well-being, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I left, knowing that I would never return, but I left on a medical leave for stress, which was very well documented, with my lack of sleep and, my anxiety and depression and all of that. So, and I did something for myself that I never, ever thought that I would be able to do. I started my own company. Well, I shouldn't say that. First, I took time for me. I took time off. Yes.
I remember you were
Yes.
having so much fun.
I took time off. I did a mindful meditation for 8 weeks. I did art classes. I did the things that I knew my heart was craving to do.
That's awesome.
And took some time off. And then I started this consulting company for just myself, a small little company of one. And I was able to land a full-time job pretty quickly. And I just felt awesome. I'm like, I'm going to call it, Current Solutions, because I was flowing with the water, and I just, it was just my dream. I'm like, I never ever thought that I would do this,
And he treated you so well.
the
too.
job that I landed was awesome, and it spoke of the microbiome, and it was just super. And the people there, although the same type of culture, same type of company, a startup company, my boss and the CEO, they were inclusive, they were compassionate, they were considerate and communicative, so it was an extremely honoring position, to be working for them, because they understood, what was necessary to keep us all healthy.
Right.
In such an environment, in such a company, in the industry where we're making medicines to help people, they got it, and I really loved working there. And I don't know if you want me to jump right into my, whole story, but I'd be.
Well, can I just interject too, because I know
Certainly.
Marcia always talks about knowing, our knowing, that women have a knowing in them. We all do. We have that women's intuition, that knowing. And you had that. You had that knowing from that job.
Yeah.
You were thinking, this is not good for my body, my soul, my anything about me.
And I lived that
Yeah.
life for 17 years there,
Yeah.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
we've been taught to
Yeah.
ignore that.
You did,
Right.
and she ignored it for so long, but
talk
once you...
ourselves out of what we know,
Yeah,
right?
but once you...
Not rational, it's not logical, it's not practical.
Exactly. Once you got it, though, look at the great things that happened,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
And that's absolutely true, because it's amazing, once you put yourself first a little bit, and this whole COVID thing made me think of some of these things, like when you say it's an inside job, where, I had so many other masks, not these kind of masks,
Right.
but, I wore, the people pleaser, and, the overdoer, the overachiever, the type A, it's just.
Work hard
Yes,
rather than work
exactly.
smarter, which
Yeah.
you're doing now.
I was a workaholic, a quickaholic. I was in my car 4 hours a day on my commute into Cambridge. It just, that inside job, is really what it's all about. And I loved working for this company. And I say that in the past tense because in May of last year, I was diagnosed with stage 4 hepatocellular carcinoma, which is a primary liver cancer that had metastasized to my lungs. Now, there were no warning signs, or so I say, so I had neck pain, shoulder pain, I'm thinking, okay, from driving, from sitting, from all these.
Stress.
Stress, exactly, stress. And so I'd been taking ibuprofen, high amounts of ibuprofen for for a couple of years, and so I was feeling pain, which brought me to the hospital, which I thought it was an ulcer. I'm like, has to be an ulcer or something with all this, ibuprofen. But it was a rather large mass, too big for surgery, and they started bringing in hospice and palliative care, and how did I feel at that time? I was in complete shock. I was in complete shock, and my husband was as well. And I don't know where to go from there, but so they gave me months. That's what their prognosis was.
One of the things that I think might be great to highlight is that you had already been shifting your vision and waking up, and you were already starting to see things from a higher perspective. And so she didn't come into that diagnosis as a beginner. She didn't come in as a victim. She already saw that she was sovereign, that she could choose how to see this as an opportunity for deeper transformation, deeper alignment with her spirit, and following her inner guidance system. So she's been remarkably a leader in this way, embodying such courage. A whole community of women are just in awe of her story and the way she's stepped into alignment. And so I just really want to presence that.
Thank you, because you're absolutely right, and that helped tremendously.
Yeah.
Marcia was one of the first people I called from the hospital,
We
to
were
let-
waiting for you on a call that day,
That's
remember?
right.
I said, where's Marie? And she texted me that she was in the hospital.
Yeah. And, yes, so I knew, I had tools, I had tools in my little toolbox of,
And
of,
sisterhood.
yeah, and in my sisterhood, I had tools, and I had the collective circle of women that just reached out and hugged me, be it from a distance or physically. And I felt loved, I really felt loved and held. And the flip side of that coin was I had my laptop with me as well, and I was still working from the hospital. I continued to work for 6 months after that diagnosis, and but it was from that point that really rocketed me into where I am today. From that point, I'm not sure exactly where that shift came, but I had definitely been thawing out from all those scripts and from all that conditioning. I was no longer in survival mode. I was, as we talk about, survival mode, I was more in, I want to thrive. I was thriving. Why is this, why me, why now? What is this? And, we talked about, things like the universe has a funny way, of sharing information with us. And of course, whatever it may be, like you mentioned at the very beginning, a trauma, a toxic work situation, a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis that's tragic, it makes you think, right? Why me? But why not, why not me?
Yes.
So it made me think, this is happening to me for a reason. And of course, I didn't come there like this, it took me a while, and it really, you might say, boy, she doesn't look like she has cancer, does she? Well, I'll tell you, back then when I was on the chemotherapy, it really took a huge toll on my body, and it really was a painful treatment protocol. Again, I felt within, I'm not taking this. My body is not going to take one more ounce of chemotherapy. And I just said it right then and there to my husband. I had been back and forth to the hospital a few times for dehydration because I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. It was horrendous. I was in a ton of pain. I would have rather died. I really would have. That's where I had reached. Like, it was an oral chemotherapy, so I took it from home. I said, I'm not taking it anymore. And I didn't. And so went to the doctors, and they put me on something new. They said it may or may not work. It's an immunotherapy. And you know, the world has really come a long way with different treatments for cancer. And so this immunotherapy works in about 15 to 20% of the people who take it. And it really hasn't been used for my type of cancer. So they were really taking a long shot with me. And I said, well, what if this doesn't work? Well, we're really, you know, out of luck if it doesn't work. So I said, okay. So, of course, took it. And it has since, you know, been doing extremely well for me. But again, it's that intuition that I would neglect a lot. You know, and even in the hiring process when I was in the work environment, I would always trust my gut, you know, when interviewing somebody, because you just know. It's it's that sense that you just know what's right and what's wrong, you know, and you can just feel something. And now I listen to that much more than I ever did before. You know, I listen to it, and you know, I'm no longer having to fill my days with tasks and to-do lists, and if I'm not productive, I had a wasted day. You know, it's the complete opposite for me now. It's like if I don't have stillness in my day, real stillness, and just you know, in meditation and prayer and time, you know, time for me, then something's wrong. You know, I just don't feel centered. You know, so. I may have jumped around a little bit there, but you know, in terms of just my prognosis and my my longevity is just as long as anybody on this planet, really.
Isn't that miraculous?
You know, we have today,
Yes,
and I just have so much faith. I just have so much faith and hope, and I know that, you know, I don't know if I've had a spiritual awakening. I know I've been woke, or whatever. You know, I know that, you know, I'm awake now, and I have hope and I have faith, and I'm okay with. I've just come to accept it, you know, and I think since I have just come to accept it, it's okay.
You're relaxed now,
I
right?
am.
Yeah, you're more relaxed, which is great for her health. You know, we talk a lot
Absolutely.
about that in our programs. There's so much fear, so much worry. We've been scripted to be afraid. We've been scripted to worry. And this is a great immunity depleter. And so we work a lot on activating our higher consciousness that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that we are not just our physical bodies. We have access to this energy. Love, we can't see it, but we can feel love, right? We get these knowings, we can't see it. Gravity, all these energy is real. And when we tune into these energies that we want more of in our lives, and we start to experience those energies, they actually can create a shift in our body because we start to heal. And that's what Marie's been very much focused on. We even had a healing circle at our center and had her love herself to death, like love her cancer cells to death.
I do. I talk to myself.
I know you do, because we've been talking about, you know, we're not just victims. Obviously, what's certain in our lives is uncertainty, but we have so much power to consciously create a life we love. And in so doing, as our vibration shifts, we shift the vibration of everyone around us. So we create a world that's more in harmony. That's why I'm on fire, you know, to support you and all the women that are saying, you know what, I'm waking up and I'm going to take good care of me, which is the Me First movement.
Oh, that
Yes,
was my
and we
next
talked
question
about
to you.
Leading right into.
That was leading right into the Me First movement. But,
Which is where she is now. She had a
exactly,
conversion. But she doesn't put herself first now. She doesn't feel like alive. She's back in survival mode, and there's
Exactly.
no going
Yeah.
back.
Right.
Once you touch and taste
That's
that
right.
world of what's possible for us, there's no going back to survival. It's just not sustainable. And that's where we are as a culture right now. The old ways aren't sustainable. They're not working. And so we're in the middle of this, you know, when the caterpillar starts to see it can be a butterfly, Well, nobody talks about the chrysalis stage, right? Where everything dissolves. Your she shed, the shedding of all that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's
That's my
going on
she
a lot for a lot of us now, is that we're shedding all this stuff, and it can be very confusing, can be very scary. But in the midst of that, when we're quiet and going within, we can start to experience that voice of our soul. And this is what we all need to be doing right now, to go into deep within and trust that energy. And really, sometimes what we need help with sometimes is to trust our own knowing. You know, I can guide someone, but you know what's best for you. I know. Not you. Everyone's telling us. We're getting so many voices. But what is the voice of the soul, that the whisper of the soul that speaks in the sounds of our heart? This is what we need to trust. And my feeling is you leaped into a deeper trust of that voice, and you're creating a life that's harmonizing with your health and entertaining, that vision every day. I really feel has made a big impact, that we're not sitting ducks. Obviously we can do the best we can every day, which goes to the me first. So as she said earlier, she felt like a victim. How many of us have felt like victims? What happened when the Me Too movement started? We were all telling our stories, right?
Absolutely,
We were
yeah.
gathering. We were posting on social media. Me too, me too, me too.
Right.
This is wonderful, because it was safe enough for women to start thawing out and sharing our trauma stories. And either we've had trauma in our own lives, or we've witnessed it vicariously. So we're all part of that stage of the violence and oppression of women. And how many of us walk around afraid, right? And I've talked to men, it's not in their coherency to be walking around thinking about
No.
whether they're going to get sexually abused,
Right.
So we've been scripted to even be afraid. We don't feel safe. And so that Me Too movement, there was enough of a massive awakening to say, it's safe now for us all to come out and to challenge the status quo and to have our voice. And so I was watching this, and of course I work with a lot of women, seeing them thaw out, seeing them rise up, seeing them step into their power and value themselves and create lives of their hearts. To get out of those toxic relationships, work on their health, create their own business, whatever their dream is. And I started thinking, well, it's me too, but now it's me first. And so that just came to me one day, and I coined that term as the Me First movement, because
We were going to make T-shirts.
yeah,
remember?
Me First. I still have that on my vision board. The Me First, and then put all the things in the back, like self-love. I'm worthy within. I have sacred gifts. I'm a warrior goddess. But the Me First, is not what it sounds like initially. It's all about me, which is more our lower self. I don't care about anyone. I'm just in it for myself. That does not lead to fulfillment. That does not lead to true soul happiness and joy. It doesn't. The Me First I'm talking about is the me, but the more than me, my highest and best self that I'm encoded with. Because that comes back. Like we've been in a society that's always looking at what's wrong with us. We're looking for disease. We're looking for diagnosis. We're looking for my depression. All these things. None of that's who we are. And the more we focus on that, the more energy we put on that, the more we become that. And so that's why I really want women to, and all human beings, to remember what we focus, if we know what we focus on grows, why aren't we focusing every day on the best within ourselves and the best within you? Why aren't I looking at you and seeing all your magnificence and your beauty? I am.
Well, we do. Of course we do.
And seeing what's right with us and what's right with the world and what's beautiful and what's magnificent. And the Me First is waking up and remember and hearing the good news. You are not your victim story. You are not your wounds. You are not your history. You come in with the light of your true self. And that is what I know to be true. And this is my belief, that it's already encoded with divine perfection. Because if we look at all nature, it's already encoded, right? The acorn's encoded to be an oak tree. The rose is encoded. We're all encoded. It's not. So there's a unique beauty and magnificence we all have. And I used to call it, when my kids were their little treasure chest that they got. And they all had an extra plus, something that you are that I'm never going to be. So there's a uniqueness. And that uniqueness wakes us up to what I call our sacred wealth. And when we come into that, there's no need to compete with you or compare myself to you or see you as a threat, because I know that I have within me that innate sacredness, what I call our sacred worth, that there's never will be another me or another you. So to me, this is about almost dissolving the ego that keeps us small and be humble enough to recognize, I didn't create myself. You know, I won't go into that, but really, we come into being through this higher consciousness, and we are encoded with this sacredness. And so the most difficult thing that I find for most women is to see and embrace their own magnificence and embody it. Oh, no, not me. Well, Michelle, you look so amazing today. You did such a great job. Oh, no, we get uncomfortable with owning.
It's true. You say that. Yeah, you say that to us.
Yeah.
If somebody gives you a compliment, say, well, thank you so much.
Get comfortable. Get
Accept
used
it.
to feeling uncomfortable receiving love and compliments. And,
Yes.
Right.
it's like it's easy to, that's where I call women out of their comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
But the me first is about becoming a disciple of our soul and putting our highest well-being first. And then listening to what we need. What kind of environment, what kind of people, what kind of support do we need to become the best version of ourselves? And that's what I call the me first movement. And when we start to feel our energy leaked or drained, most likely it's because we abandon ourselves, and we're used to doing it. And so it's not about judging ourselves for that, but remembering that we're not victims anymore. We have the power to take charge and unleash our power to thrive, and that nobody's coming. We are the ones we're waiting for to take charge. And this is so important, because so many women will blame everyone and everything rather than take a look and say, I created this, and I can destroy and uncreate this and start again. And that's what I call the me first movement.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, having had, the diagnosis that I've had and having been through everything that I've been through, it makes me question, or it made me question, what is my purpose?
Yes.
What is my purpose?
Yeah.
And I've thought about this even way before having my diagnosis. I'm like when I was working, I know I don't belong here. I feel like an imposter. What is my purpose? And I used to complicate the hell out of it.
Right.
Can I say that?
You can
Yes.
say that. We'll allow it.
I used to really complicate it, and what I've come to find is that my purpose is to simply remember who I am.
Yes.
Remember
Thank you.
who I am, and
Yes.
to remember this little light of mine, right? I'm going to let it shine, and just remember who I am. And to speak of the Me First movement is, to just remember who I am and just be me
That's it.
first.
Right.
That's true.
But just be me,
Yeah.
and
Free yourself, Miss
and,
Marie, right?
and it's
You get to
amazing
free
when you
yourself.
are,
Yeah.
and when I let go of expectations, and I let go of, and I just accept life on life's terms, and see the beauty in people, and see the beauty in nature, and just see us all connected,
That's it.
because we really, truly are
Yes.
all connected,
Yes.
that people tell me that being with you, Marie, just felt like a spiritual experience. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, me?
Right.
Yeah, me? And it's just, I never in my entire life would ever think that I would be providing people with inspiration. My sister, even, who we don't see each other very often, and she sent me a card the other day, and I was like, oh, thank you so much. So I videotaped a thank you to her, and I sent it, and she said, well, it was your Facebook post that
Yes.
inspired me
That's
to
it.
send you a card. I'm like, I find solace in just, going internal and really thinking about
Yes.
what is my purpose, and what are we here for? We're really here to lift each other up.
Absolutely.
And let's highlight that too, because one of the things that we learn from nature is that we are wired to thrive, and it is natural. It's not natural to be sick. It's not natural to be in fear. It's natural to thrive. And so as you started to shed the old conditioning and you stepped into your natural self, your true organic self, that vibration emits a frequency. And that's what we're always transmitting energy constantly. What kind of energy are we sending out, right?
Right.
And what if our purpose was just that?
Right.
It's that we're just meant to be who we already are. And so again, it's not actually meant to be ease and flow and simple and graceful.
Exactly.
We've made it complicated because we've been trying to figure it out with this rather than with what feels resonant, right? What feels amazing, what feels joyful, what gets me excited. And that's the
Exactly.
unlearning, right? So
It
we can
is.
sculpt that life that we want.
Yes.
Yeah. And then people, she never dreamed. She's
Well,
making an impact.
I tell her
right?
that all the time on
I
the
know.
Zooms. I'm like, Marie, you just
I
inspire
know.
me. I mean, when I'm having a bad day, man, and then you show up and you say these things, and she's so inspiring.
She is.
Because,
She's amazing.
when you get a diagnosis that what you got, what's the first thing that people probably want to do is just crawl inside and say, okay, that's it. And I mean, I'm sure you've had those moments.
Right, that's
I'm
the
sure.
chrysalis moment, right?
That's
Yes,
right.
That's the
exactly.
messy, painful part,
That's
of
it.
like
Yeah,
saying, why
but-
me?
But
But
then
you
you,
didn't let
but
it-
the, yeah,
absolutely.
you,
Yeah, you
you
didn't
didn't
let it-
stay there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's the inspiration for me, for anybody that's watching. When you get something like a diagnosis of cancer, or bad news, like the most horrific news that could ever be. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
And you're living.
Right.
You're living,
She
and
living.
you just bring such joy to me. I
Yes.
swear when I think of you and I think of your story.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Really.
It's so amazing. And Kelly, you just raised something really important when what Marie did.
Yes.
Is she
Yeah.
chose.
She chose
And
not
that's
to.
the power, right? Like we get to choose in
You got
every
it.
moment what story we want to create.
And it's good to remind ourselves
Totally,
of
that we have that
Yes.
power to choose that, because we
Right.
can forget that we have the power of creators, of conscious creators.
That's right.
And when we remember that, it's not working,
Right.
we get to create something new. And this is not just for ourselves, but for our world.
So
Imagine.
we essentially have the power.
That's it, yeah. But when we
Yeah.
keep forgetting that, we become victims again.
You have your red slippers on,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's what actually Marcia says that. You've had the power all along, my
All
dear.
along, yeah.
always
it's like
been
we
there,
we're walking around dimmed down and in the shadows of a third dimensional gray Kansas world that we've forgotten what we already knew. And even little children, they know this, but then as we get older, we start to get clouded. And this
Right.
is what we're unleashing, that
Yes.
original natural design that's meant to be so simple.
Well, thank you.
My honor. Such a joy.
So, I'm looking at all my questions here. We kind of covered a lot of things. So, when you offer your programs, Marcia, so we'll get back to what's going on with your heart-centered women. When you're going through your programs with women, what are the different stages that you see them going through? Has Marie actually been through all those stages with you?
Yeah. Everyone's at a different point. So when they step into the program, they can be burnout and depletion and just at the beginning of having no clue who they are. Some women come in to my services and already have a vision, and they're ready to create their dream business, or to take charge of their health, or work on thriving in their relationship, because usually, if we're not thriving, there's an energy leak in one area of our life or another. Maybe that one thing we just can't break out of. So that self-sabotage can hold us back from the next level of ourselves. So we're always growing, and we're always becoming. But I say for the most part, most of the women come in, they are women leaders. They're women in positions of service, let's say. And they're mostly heart-centered women who know they're here to make a difference. And that's their big why. But they often come in, with some kind of burnout or depletion. So usually the first step is putting themselves first. So there's a great unlearning going on of seeing how we've been scripted and seeing how we've been in this trance of scarcity. I can't afford it. I don't have enough time, or whatever, or I'm not enough, or I lack something. And just starting to see that and gently help them unlearn those scripts, because it can be really challenging for us. We've been taught one way, kind of like if you're speaking English and I'm saying, now you need to learn French.
Yeah.
I had a group the other day, I'm starting a brand new cycle, and one of the women said, I know I need this group, and she's a very successful businesswoman. She says, but a lot of what you're saying, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, I was there. That's exactly what. Sometimes I'd say, is it just not computing?
me?
Like, is it? But then all of a sudden, it starts resonating.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, oh, that's
It's your
what it
butterfly
is.
wings
I
starting to
get it.
resonate with the new energy, right? It's like, oh, I
Exactly.
see. I am encoded to fly. I remember this now. But it is foreign. A
Yeah.
lot of times, initially, it's like, oh, this doesn't. And I feel that way too. When I expose myself to new thought leaders, it doesn't resonate. But over time, what women have said is that the soil gets seeded, and then one day something sprouts.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that first step is really just seeding, awakening up, and putting ourselves in the environment where we can be awakened out of that unconsciousness. And then the next step is not just knowing that we're worthy, because intellectual worth doesn't do anything. How many of us say, I know I'm worth it, but we don't really feel it, or we
Right.
don't make those changes. We just take a step, oh, I'm worth it. Because it's not until we experience our worth from within. So it's not a head thing, it's a felt sense of worthiness. And in order to do that, we have to be open to receive that message and let others help us, because we're wired for relationship. And there's a part we can't do on our own if we're in that script. So that's where we have to learn to be in relationship with others and start to be open to maybe I am worthy and to discover those things.
And to believe it.
And that's it. But not just like intellectually, but really
Right.
feel.
Right, feel it.
Right? Like to really be and live it.
Mm.
Because I know for me, that's when things start to happen, when I start to feel my worth. Not just know, like I could feel it vibrating, like, oh my God, there it is. And that's when I started to take myself seriously, my gifts seriously, my dreams seriously, instead of going, yeah, nice, great. We often don't take that seriously. So that's a stage, and then there's discovering our unique gifts, our sacred, what I call the sacred wealth. And what creates that abundance for us. So there's stages of that, and then there's stepping into our power, what I call the warrior power, to say, okay, here are my gifts, but now I have to activate that power to take action. And when women are in that stage, that's more of a masculine energy, but it's never forcing it. It's working with the energy of our creative vision, and the action needs to be aligned with that. So if you think of when women give birth, right?
Right.
It's that type of intelligence. We're not forcing something. We're letting it reveal itself, and we are consenting to taking inspired action in alignment with what is being shown. And that's what leads to fulfillment. That's what leads to us blossoming. If you think of a tree rooted in the earth, sourcing itself from within and growing in the best conditions, it starts to be able to be of service in a way that we may not have even imagined, such as what Marie's describing. She had her way, my purpose is to be this successful corporate, or whatever she thought. That was more of her human purpose. But now she's awakening to her soul's purpose, which is so fulfilling, right? It's so, sacred. And she makes an impact just by being who she is. And that's what we're really talking about here. It's already there. She just
Thank you.
she chose
Yes,
she
it's
chose
yeah.
to do what she needed to do.
Choosing to say yes.
That's
Yes.
it.
Right?
Again and again, even to
Yes.
your no.
Yes.
So, boy, this went by very fast, didn't it?
It does.
Didn't we
It
say
does,
that it was
yes.
going to go by very
Yeah.
fast? So, before we leave, we have a couple more minutes. Marcia, is there anything that you would like to add? Anything that you think that we've just in a brief, maybe minute or two? And also talk about your, Marcia, you can actually look at Marcia's programs and what Marcia offers on marciamariner.com. It's a fantastic website. I love your website. It's so happy. But there are many offerings on her website for classes and things like that. So that's a great website to go to, marciamariner.com. Any last word that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, on that note, there is a free gift. It's from How to Make the Shift from Blah to Bliss. And please, if you sign up for that, then you'll hear about the gatherings, you'll hear about the things we're doing. So that's a great way to connect. But I just feel like don't be afraid to dream. Have the courage to dream, and then dream a little bigger, because the growth happens right outside that comfort zone. And take a leap in alignment with your heart's desire. You can never fail your destiny.
Very true.
I know. So we just loved having both of you on the show.
Thank you.
This was a
Thank you
great
for being our
first
first
show.
guest.
It's
So exciting to see what you're doing here. I am on fire
Yeah.
with this
You're
vision.
going to watch us grow,
I
Mike.
Are you
know.
kidding?
Yeah.
And all the women that you're going to be
Yeah, it's
supporting.
gonna-
I'm already
yeah.
thinking of so many
Yeah.
that I want to
Well,
get on
Yes.
the
that's
program.
what helps each other,
Yeah, it
right?
lifts
Watching
each other up.
grow.
That's it.
Absolutely. So,
Grow until we're going.
So thank you so much, Marcia, for being here, and Marie, and
You're very
telling your
welcome.
story, and,
Thank you.
and just being brave enough to tell your story. That was fantastic.
Wonderful.
And
Very welcome.
Marcia, your words of wisdom always just I know that there are people out there that this is just really going to help. So thank you both very, very much for
Honored.
being
Thank
here.
you.
And we hope that you in the audience will continue to join Kelly and I. We will have guests every other week. We will be showcasing new women in our community. So we hope that you will join us. And thank you so much. And always remember, you're a woman of worth. Thanks so much. Bye.
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 I really wanna show you, baby.